Hi, I'm Joe Ferrace. Welcome to Joe's Movie Club. Today we have a double feature of sorts. We're taking a look at a couple of crime thrillers from the 40s and the 50s. It's Kiss Me Deadly and The Naked City. I think you'll like both these films. They're both from Criterion editions that we're going to be talking about. And they both have several things in common, yet they are very, very different films. So hang in there with me. We're going to take a look at those movies right now. The Naked City is a 1948 film that is directed by Jules Dassin. It was the second film that Dassin directed, an American film that he directed anyway. He was a blacklisted director, so after directing this film and the death of the producer, Mark Hellinger, he headed to Europe, where he had wild success with films like Never on Sunday, Rififi, Topkapi, and so much so that many people thought of him as Jules Dassin, a European director, when he was in fact born in Connecticut. The Naked City is a remarkable achievement in filmmaking built around the police procedural. Dassin and Hellinger took it to a different direction. Everything is shot on location. Now, I guess there's a few sets, including the police station and the Lieutenant Muldoon's office, which features off and on during the film. Muldoon is portrayed by Barry Fitzgerald. Now, he's a guy who's a character actor, and he's the star of the film, and he's the glue that holds together. And he's kind of just amazing in this film. As I said, it uses a familiar trope of the older, experienced, world-weary cop who's seen everything. A young, fresh-faced detective that's portrayed by Don Taylor. Now, Don Taylor, he went on to a career beyond acting and became a film director. Notably, he directed Escape from the Planet of the Apes. So that's kind of an interesting career path he had. This movie is not a film noir. It is a classic detective story in which a woman is murdered and the detectives go about solving the murder. Along the way, there's lots of twists and plots. There's really no femme fatale, although there's a woman of interest in the film who pops up from time to time and is portrayed by the strikingly beautiful Dorothy Hart. Dorothy Hart was famous for replacing Marina Sullivan, who was Jane in the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan series. The film has lots of twists and turns, and it's populated with lots of interesting character actors, not just Fitzgerald himself, who is a character actor as the lead, but also Arthur O'Connell, who goes on to a wonderful career as a character actor, including his wonderful turn in the film Anatomy of a Murder with James Stewart. This is a film that if you haven't seen it, you have to get a copy of it. And there is one available in the Criterion Collection, so that's a beautiful transfer. Similarly, James Gregory has a small part as a patrolman who helps Don Taylor with identifying one of the perpetrators of the murder. James Gregory, he goes on to a long career as a character actor, most notably as Angela Lansbury's husband and a corrupt politician in the John Frankenheimer film Manchurian Candidate. This is another film that's available with a beautiful transfer from Criterion, and if you have not seen this film, you must. The Manchurian Candidate was one of the two films that when I walked out of the theater, I was like stunned. The other one was 2001, by the way. I saw both of those films in the theaters downtown in Baltimore in first run. The 2001 actually in Cinerama, which was quite a nice presentation. I saw The Manchurian Candidate at the Keith Theater, and I can remember walking out of there thinking, what the heck? It's quite the film holds up. The power of it right now is amazing. So if you haven't seen Manchurian Candidate, you should get a copy of the Criterion edition. But the movie also has a lot of other character actors, including Molly Picon, who just plays a woman who runs a, I don't know, what is kind of maybe a 1948 version of a 7-Eleven, where Don Taylor goes in to get a root beer while he's tracking down the nefarious perpetrator of one of the perpetrators. And you get to know who these guys are right away. I mean, early in the film, you see the guys commit the murder, or at least the edges of the murder. The film is not very graphic in that way. I mean, it is 1948. You're in the midst, hardcore of the production code, so it may be disturbing the way it's portrayed, but at the same time, it's not very graphic. Now, what's striking about this film is most of it is shot. The cinematographer is William Daniels, who went on to win an Academy Award for the film, mainly because amazing cinematography in New York City that's alive and bustling. And in fact, this is the most interesting part about this film. The movie is based on a book. The book is called The Naked City. It is not a novel or even a nonfiction book. It's a book of photographs by a very talented and very eccentric photographer named Arthur Feelig. Now, Arthur Feelig was better known by his nom de plume or pen name, or whatever you want to call it, Ouija. So he was known as Ouija, and he was a crime reporter, and he reported for the newspapers. And he was the kind of guy, cigar in his face, kicked the door open, hit it with a speed graphic and a big flash bulb. That was Ouija. But his works have transcended the genre, and he created this book called The Naked City. The grittiness of his work was taken by the filmmakers into creating this very documentary looking, very real world look at this mystery, this crime, and the solution of it in New York City. Now, the ending of the film is quite remarkable, and there's a chase scene, but not just any chase scene. There's no cars involved. I mean, cars come up and screech and stuff like that, but the truth is it's all on foot, where Don Taylor starts the chase against the bad guy, and the chase is all over New York City, or at least one little section of New York City. And this is where everything in this movie ramps up, and it moves from being a documentary to being something out of a Hitchcock film. This is the cinematography, the angles, the direction. This is, and the way it's edited, and the music too. Now, the music is by Frank Skinner and Miklos Rosa, but I don't know who Frank Skinner is. Maybe he did some great scores. Well, I can tell you this, the ending, the soundtrack from Miklos Rosa, who wanted to do a Hitchcock film like Spellbound, which has a beautiful melodic theme song. He also did Ben-Hur. I mean, goodness, the guy is extremely talented. And the combination of the cinematography, the direction, the music of this chase scene to the end of the film is absolutely remarkable. You will not believe this is a 1948 film. This is just remarkable filmmaking. And it's a perfect cap to a movie that's, let's say it, it's captivating from beginning to end. It's a classic for a good reason. It is just amazing. Now, what about the disc? This is an older Criterion release. The spine number is 380, and I think they're up to like 1140 or 1143 or some number like that. So I don't know when this was released. I got it at the last Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble, where they sell these at half price, which is usually how I buy my Criterion releases. At the beginning of the film, when you this is a Blu-ray. At the beginning of the film, when you put the disc in, all of a sudden you get this screen full of text that said, there's no extant copy of this film in one piece. There's no original camera negative. The movie you're about to see, it says, was assembled from 13 diverse sources and painstakingly restored in Germany, frame by frame, with a 4K transfer. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is going to look like crap, because if you look at some of the Criterion's earlier Blu-rays of black and white films of this era, like Stagecoach, for instance, The Stagecoach transfer it varies from not too good to okay to pretty good, but it's not consistent. This transfer, this film, is probably one of the most beautiful films that made from this era as far as the transfer quality. Is absolutely stunning. I think I mentioned in my review of Casablanca that you knew this was going to look great as soon as the Warner Brothers logo came up. Well, as soon as the Universal logo pops up on the screen, you know this is going to look good. And there's no flaws. And in the audio, too. The audio is crisp, the dialogue is sharp, and Barry Fitzgerald is not the easiest guy to understand. I remember the first time I saw this film, he was very hard to understand. The film looked like crap when I saw it. This thing is beautiful. It enhances the experience to the point where you don't care what it looks like. You're being dragged along by the plot, by the actors, it's just amazing. This is filmmaking at its best, and this is a must-see film. If you're interested in 1948 crime drama, if you won't beat The Naked City, make sure you get a copy. Kiss Me Deadly was a 1955 film that was directed by Robert Aldrich. While not strictly in the film noir tradition, the film has a look that's very film noir. And like The Naked City, it was shot a lot on location, including in the area of Los Angeles around the famous vertical railway, the Angel's Flight. The film has a film noir look, but it's not necessarily a film noir because it's based on the Mickey Spillane novel of the same name. There's a whole lot of liberties that the screenwriter A.I. Bezaredes takes with the book by Mickey Spillane. Number one, they move the location from New York City to Los Angeles. And while Mike's secretary Velda is still part of the scene, he doesn't have an office. He has more what looks like a Playboy's bachelor pad, complete with a reel-to-reel answering machine like I never seen before and probably nobody has since. Nevertheless, Ralph Meeker embodies the character of Mike Hammer better than any other film Mike Hammer. There have been a lot of different actors who portrayed Mike Hammer, including Mickey Spillane himself in an adaptation of his book, The Girl Hunters. Well, I didn't think he did that good of a job, but the critics seemed to like it. I didn't. But Meeker is sarcastic. He's tough. He's just the kind of guy you want Mike Hammer to be. Although he's more LA cool than more New York hard, tough guy. The screenwriter also takes liberty with a Mike Hammer's best buddy, which is Pat Chambers, who's a lieutenant on the police force. Instead, we get Pat Murphy, who is maybe not as much a friend as a frenemy to Mike Hammer in this film, but he's portrayed by a wonderful actor named Wesley Addy, who I think I'd seen him before, and you probably will recognize him as a character actor. He's really wonderful. Also in this film, there are three different actresses who make their first appearance in the movies. One of which is Cloris Leachman, who plays the pivotal role, who kicks the whole thing off when she's picked up by Mike on a dark road. In the book, she's naked, so he's going to stop for sure. But in the film, she's got a trench coat on, and maybe they hint that she's not wearing any clothes underneath. But anyway, she is the key of making the whole plot move forward. The whole film revolves around a briefcase in a case that is very similar to what Quentin Tarantino uses in Pulp Fiction. Although they never explain in Pulp Fiction what's in the briefcase. I'm not going to give any spoilers for Kiss Me Deadly, but they pretty much explain it right up to the very last frame of Kiss Me Deadly. And it's a surprise even if you know it's coming, which I did. It's still a surprise. There's lots of character actors in this film too, including Jack Elam, who's not a cowboy, but he is obviously a bad guy who's hired by one of the mobsters that gets wrapped up in this whole complicated plot. But the movie is beautifully shot by Ernest Laszlo, who made a lot of films, including It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World and Judgment at Nuremberg. So he knows how to shoot movies. And this film is beautiful. We'll talk about the technical aspects later, but the use of lots of shadows and blacks and strange angles, and they wind up getting stolen by the French Connection, William Friedkin, many years later. This is again a very influential film, even though it probably has a reputation of being kind of a B movie because there's no big stars in the film. I mean, this is Cloris Leachman's first film. The woman who plays Velda is very interesting. She really hits the Velda thing pretty good. She's sweet, but she's tough. But let's talk about the disc itself. Like The Naked City, this is an older release. This was spine number 568. And so, like I said, they're up to about 1140 or whatever right now. So it's an older restoration, but it looks pretty good. I think the only parts that are would be considered maybe less than optimum are transitions where the director dissolves to go from one scene to another, and the next shot in the scene that they're dissolving to is a wide angle shot. It seems like that when they get to that wide angle shot, it's not crisp, and it kind of takes a little while for it to come into focus. Most people may not even notice it, but if you're a picky guy like me, especially at focus because I'm a photographer, we notice things like that. And but other than that, I would say that it's a very, very good transfer. This is not, I don't think this was a 4K transfer, but it looks really good. The blacks are really black, especially because once he goes up into Bunker Hill area where he's chasing bad guys around, and this has a complicated plot, not unlike The Big Sleep. In the movie The Big Sleep, the screenplay was written by the author of the book, Raymond Chandler, and someone asked Chandler when they were making the movie, well, who killed the guy that wound up in the car in the river? He said, I don't know. He said, but you wrote the book. He didn't know. And this is kind of how Kiss Me Deadly kind of runs. I don't think the book is like that, but I think this screen adaptation is indefinite. But you don't care. You're going along for the ride. You're going along because you trust Ralph Meeker. You can't wait to see what kind of weirdo stuff he's going to do next. And he's a tough guy. He is very Mike Hammer in this movie. And so it's a fun semi-noir mystery, whodunit, why they did it, that looks great, and it's a fun evening. It's only a short movie. I think it's 106 minutes. And it sounds good too. Film score is by Frank Duvall, who's done a lot of film scores. The whole package is nice. It's taut. It's like they don't make movies anymore. They feel like they have, this is like a cliche, okay? They don't make movies like that. And The Naked City is like that too. And even Casablanca is like that. These are movies that were made for an adult audience. There's no superheroes. There's no CG. There's just tough guys, tough dames, people smoking cigarettes, wearing hats. A lot of hats in The Naked City. If you like a good mystery, and if you like Mike Hammer at all, even though it's a little bit twisted from the Mike Hammer that we all know and love if you read the books, it's still a fun film to watch, and it's a great ride. I recommend it. Give it a watch. I know you'll like it. I sure had fun with it. What's coming up next is I'm going to be doing something about budget 4K releases. When 4K first came out, I was not a fan. I was very happy with my Samsung plasma TV, and I was happy with my Blu-rays. When it died, I saw the light. I bought a 4K TV like you have a choice these days, and I saw films in 4K and I thought, wow, this is great. What bothered me initially was that 4K discs were too expensive, but they don't have to be, and I'm going to show you one in the next video that's $8.46 or 64 cents, one of those, and it's a good movie too, so Stay tuned. I hope you'll like it. If you find it in your heart, could you please like and subscribe to this little videos that I do? I'm having fun doing them. People seem to be enjoying them. Please ask questions if you like. I like hearing from everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Monster Beast Theater. This is your host, Alistair Cookie. I've always wanted to say that.